There we go.
I'll be the next speaker.
Please take your seats.
We don't want
There we go. Everybody like that? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to call the Door County Board of Supervisors to order on Tuesday, July 25th at approximately 9:05 a.m. Please join me in pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. We have 20 present, 1 excused. Presentation of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence. In your packet, you received the unassigned fund balance, also the resolution from the town of Big Harbor. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, and I did have one correspondence that I said I'd pass out before the meeting. It's in front of or on your desk. There was a correspondence provided by a Charlene Peterson. And what it is, it's a memo dated November 1st, 2016. And what it is a memo that was submitted to the Michigan DEQ on their comments regarding the application process. So I just wanted to make sure I included that, and I said that would be included as a communication.
The other thing I would add under correspondence is on your desk. Most of you have received a hard copy printout of the administrator's evaluation. I know a couple people have already turned theirs in. They were emailed to you electronically on July 10th. Please have them in by the 31st. We would appreciate it, either hard copy or email. We're going to move to public comment. Before we start the public comment, I will note most people, I believe, are here for the proposed back 40 mine. In accordance with the terms of our rules, we limit comment to 30 minutes maximum and 3 minutes per person in that 30 minutes. I would recommend that if any of you are part of an organized group, that you have one spokesperson speak for that group. Other than that, individuals will be allowed 3 minutes maximum. We will have a timer on. We'll give you a 20-second warning when there's 20 seconds left. Okay. I would also state that most of the county board members have been lobbied via email, telephone. We've had numerous committee meetings on this. We've all received a great deal of information and i.e. education as a result. So I believe that for the most part, the majority of us are well educated on the issue at the moment. So it's not that we don't know anything about it. Okay. So with that, we'll start with public comment. Would you please approach the microphone? And would you please state your name and address?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm not speaking on the mine project. I'm speaking in opposition to the request from the Door County Maritime Museum for $70,000 for their shortfall. If anybody on the county board was following the city business with the West Waterfront, it's come to our attention that the Maritime Museum doesn't even know if their quitclaim deed to the property they're on is valid anymore. The Bureau Commission of Public Lands might need to be involved. We heard from board chair, I believe it is, Mr. Harder, claimed they had riparian rights, which the city argued against right away. So with the Sheriff's Department taking donations with $300,000 plus looking at emergency services, I'm questioning a organization that may or may not be able to build a tower now that has $2 million, I think is what they said they have for their tower project, needs to have county funds when they're mostly needed other places. So, and I'll quickly insert that I think this should go back to finance and get some answers to the questions that came up. Mr. Harder said that during the public comment at the last Sturgeon Bay City Council meeting that that they're a private corporation, then they don't have to list their expected revenue from this tower project and stuff like that, that the city people were asking about in relation to planning for parking and road improvements. That is the other part of the city. So I think there's some questions that the county should probably look at before they go ahead with this loan or gift, whatever it is, I'm not sure. But thank you very much.
Yes.
My name is Jim Soletsky. I'm from Green Bay, Wisconsin. And some might ask, why is somebody from Green Bay sticking their nose into the back 40 mine in Door County? And the reason is because this is an issue that affects all of us along the Bay of Green Bay. As a matter of fact, I took out a Wisconsin state map that I got from my legislator, and I measured it off, and the discharge of the Menominee River is exactly 11 miles away from Egg Harbor. So you're closer to this than any of us other counties groups. So this back 40 mine is started in 2015. Aquila Resources submitted a mining permit. And the Back 40 project is a metallic sulfide mine proposed for the bank of the Menominee River. The permit describes the mine as 800-foot deep open pit mine adjacent to the river and a cutoff wall to limit the movement of groundwater less than 100 feet from the river and dangerously close to the flood line. This mine would do the on-site crushing, milling, and refining through the use of flotation separation and mercury and cyanide smelting. Some of the things that are in the agreement with Michigan is that Michigan has a $20 million fund from the mining company to remediate environmental problems. Wisconsin has no fund. We didn't get anything out of this. So if anything goes south, we don't get anything out of it, Michigan does. And $20 million doesn't get you very far. I've spent the last 15 years watching the Fox River being remediated after all the pollution in the Fox River at the Superfund site. And they're over $1 billion that's been spent sucking all that garbage out of the river. It doesn't take long to really mess the place up. Aquila Resources is a front company for Canadian mining with no previous mining experience. They talk about all the jobs that they create. They're going to create 80 jobs for 7 years. And these jobs are not your local people. These are people that they bring in to do the mining, and they're not any long-term jobs at all. The only long-term jobs is going to be the cleanup of the mine. Nothing will benefit Wisconsin. This is not a good bet for our businesses. And we have, in Door County, I've spent the last 40 years of my life vacationing in Door County. And the swimming, the tourism, the fishing, all these things that are going to go away if we have these serious pollutions based on this. There has never been a sulfide mine in the United States.
20 seconds.
Never been a sulfide mine in the United States that has not polluted within 10 years after the mine has closed. Never. So that's what we have to look forward to. In all the glossy things that we get from Aquila, it says, this is going to be different. We're not going to do that.
Thank you. Next. Who else would like to speak?
Morning. My name's Scott Lindquist. I live in Menominee, Michigan. I'm 61 years old, and I've lived there virtually all my life. I will just reiterate a little bit, or add to some of what he said. 21 years ago, I was part of the dive team that began dredging of the lower Menominee River. Now, my job was to go and locate Marinette's water mains, which are buried in the riverbed about 4 or 5 feet deep. So I was on the floor with a suction dredge doing that work. To put this into some kind of perspective as far as cost, he said that they got 20 million set aside. We cleaned up 2 miles of the lower Menominee. It cost $41 million just to do that. This mine is 44 miles upstream. These metallic sulfide mines are the most dangerous of all kind of mining. Polymet in Minnesota is they're fighting a battle just like we are right now. And I feel like I'm going to run out of time, but I'll hand it in if you guys want to look at it afterwards. But they have, the people have submitted 58,000 comments to the DNR for review. And of that, 98% oppose. We need as many people to help us fight this fight because it's not, it goes through our backyard, but I'm telling you, just like he said, it's all of us, all wrapped around through Door County. This will seriously impact our tourism industry. You have a little handful of wannabe millionaires, and I use this analogy a lot. And here's the opposition, folks. It's this big compared to this little handful of wannabe millionaires that's going to take out a multi-billion-dollar tourism industry. And if you think it ain't going to happen, it ain't a matter of if, it's when. It takes nature 2,500 years, and only nature can take care of this problem. Aquila will promise you and tell you anything and everything that they think you need to hear. But once they got their permits, they turn into confetti and they do whatever the hell they want. And I can list, I'll do as fast as I can, I'll list you a few. Their consultant is Thoth Engineering. Steve Thoth in particular was a consultant for the Flambeau River mine. They didn't even do the processing on site, and yet it sterilized their river. It completely damaged and destroyed it. And back in '87, they knew then, before they even broke ground, they claimed that the 140-foot bedrock between the mine pit and the river was stronger than the Hoover Dam. But what they didn't say is that they knew then that there was a fissure that went through that bedrock. They didn't say that. When it started to die, the DNR did an investigation of themselves in 1993. They found out that they lied. They also lied about their self-conducted water samplings test. They found that the copper levels were 10 times the chronic level, and the zinc was twice, which is a synergistic effect. And that doesn't mean twice as strong. It's super amplified. Thank you.
Next, in the back.
Poso. My name is Tony Brown. I'm from Menominee Reservation. I was born and raised in Texas. I thought I was a Texas cowboy for a while, but I found out I'm a Menominee Indian, and so I get a little bit mixed up from that sometimes. We got to care about each other. We got to care about the water. The water can't speak for itself. Everybody's been educated. Everybody knows what they know, and you know where your heart is at. I just hope that you vote with your heart instead of your head. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Poso Meat. Hello, good morning. Craig Corn, the East one. Wapaman in the Akayan, Awasa, and the Totam. My name is Craig Corn. I'm the Vice Chairman, Menominee Indian Tribe. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Pledge of Allegiance. That's a common bond that binds us together. At our tribal school, we start that every morning so the kids know the importance of the flag and what it represents. Matt Wywanen for taking up this issue today. This has widespread opposition and cuts across political and social spectrums. At the heart is the water, Napay as we call it in our Menominee Wet'suwet'en in our Menominee language. There are several counties that have passed resolutions in opposition, which represents over 5% of Wisconsin's population currently. The lack of financial assurances in dealing with the spillage or acid drainage and money available to county budgets equipped to handle this. This contingency plan is a horrible responsibility for any county or city to have. You know, the plan, if or when that water acid drains into the water, that's an awful plan to have to deal with. It starts at the creation of the Menominee, at our creation story over in Menominee, Michigan. That's where our creation story begins. That's our ancestral lands. That's where we have our ancestors. It's very important to the Menominee tribe and the Menominee people. Up until 1831, we were stewards of this land. And now that responsibility is with you here. 1831, Menominee ceded this territory. For tens of thousands of years, we were stewards of this land. And now that responsibility falls on you. We, the Menominee Nation, ask that you think of the next seven generations and protect the water for your children, your grandchildren, and the young ones that are not here yet. That's what we ask. We ask that you protect the water and do what's right. You're going to hear a lot of facts today about, you know, the mine and the horrible things that it represents. Water is very important to us, the Menominee people. It should be important to everybody. You look at, you can go in a store right now and water is costs more than soda. I think if you look in the last 20 years, that's very important how you see the importance that water holds now.
20 seconds.
And the next years, you're going to see wars fought over water. And that's very important. But as a tribal leader, I asked that you support the opposition to the Back 40 mine from one elected official to another. I'd like to say Match Wawanan for your time. Mano Pamatisana and Yope. Live well today.
Thank you very much. Somebody else?
Yep, Burton Warrington from 628 28th Street in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, but born and raised on the Menominee Reservation. And, you know, to add on a little bit, what's been discussed so far is, you know, understanding there's full deference to this board. You're going to make a decision the way you're going to make it. And what we've tried to do is help educate people. You know, I read an article last week that said Wisconsin's voice don't matter in this, no matter what Wisconsin does. And that's just incorrect. If you look at the 404 wetlands permit that they're going through, the interests of Wisconsin are taken into consideration in there. And for all of us in Wisconsin, we need our state government here speaking up for us in that permit process. So these resolutions do matter. I've heard so many times people say, well, why would we do that? It don't matter. And it does matter. Look at the law. I'm an attorney by trade. And one of the things I've done throughout my career and got taught in law school is they teach you about the law, but they also teach you how to get around it. And one of the things that's talked about a lot is financial assurance. And you can structure these companies to basically escape financial responsibility. You know, you have a golden parachute, you get out of it, and that cost is left with the public. Right now, it's estimated in the U.S. that hard rock mines, the cleanup cost is between $20 and $45 billion from acid mine drainage. You know, this is all information you can look at yourselves, and you know, I trust you're all well educated on it. But you know, that financial assurance piece, there's countless examples of this where this has happened in the country over and over, and consistency through that is the public officials have been, you know, told and assured that this ain't going to happen, and yet it did happen. Up in Canada in 2014, there was a Mount Poly mine that the dike levee there just broke. And the British Columbia government looked into it with independent engineers, and the engineering was faulty. It was built on unstable soil, and the thing went away. So these aren't, disasters that happened 50 years ago. You're talking 3 years ago. These types of things happen. So, all deference to the board here. I understand you're going to make a decision the way you're going to make it, and I just reiterate that your voice does matter, and anybody that would tell you it doesn't, it does, and it will be taken into consideration under the law.
20 seconds.
Under the Clean Water Act. Michigan may or may not have the permitting authority, but they still have to comply with federal law, which takes into consideration the other states that it impacts. So your voice is helpful in pushing that forward. Like Vice Chairman said, over 5% of the states represented by the existing counties, and there's more coming soon. And we hope our county's on that list. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Is that too long? Poso, I went in this case being ayo sa anaquit na takam wapasha nito tamak kashina and it's wakian. So what I said is I'm handsome, I'm good looking. You don't have to worry about it. I'm glad I'm here. So I introduced who I was. My name is Anaquit, but my English name is Guy Ryder. I live on the Menominee Indian Reservation. One of the things that I always hear all the time when we're doing things is like this is, what does it matter if Wisconsin passes a resolution? Why should we? What's the purpose of it? And I think about that, and I think about it philosophically of what it means. And I think about the responsibility that you folks have and a lot of us have. You guys obviously have a little bit more responsibility by making honest decisions, and I'm glad to hear that you're educated, so I don't have to talk about the mine and the devastating effects it could potentially cause and that it will cause if this mine goes through. But we always think about those 7 generations. I think about what our grandmothers and grandfathers have told us, that we have certain gifts as people. The Creator gave us these gifts. Some of them are tears that we use, and the other gift that we have is our voice. And we should never silence our voice, not even let ourselves silence our own voice, that we should voice those things that matter so much. We also think about those 7 generations that are coming in the future. And when we think about these devastating projects that are going to pollute our waters and contaminate our land, we need to think of our grandchildren and those ones that are going to be here. Everybody wants a clean water. Everybody wants a good land. We're getting to a point now in our history where we're running out of those clean land and clean water places. So we need to think about those things. Think about those little babies that are going to be coming. And what kind of world do we want for them? Now's the time that we need to start thinking of those things. We're getting to a place, we're on that tipping point. Whether you believe in climate change, whether you believe in any of that stuff now, you just need to look around. Look around at the world that we live in. And we need to come together as people, stand side by side with one another. And I want you guys to understand and know that I'm doing the best I can for you, whether you know it or not. And every place I go to, I speak in a way that I hope reflects your morals or your values in a way that you care about your kids and your grandchildren. And I try to do my best with that, and I just ask that you do that for me today, or for us, and for your constituents that live here, that I know they've called and I know they've asked you different things to take up this resolution and stand together for a clean water, for a clean environment, for a clean land. Think about those ones that are coming in the next generations, that we need to be there for them. And I think the other component of this too is when you pass this resolution, we'll be on the right side of history. When they look back at us, they'll know that, you know what, my grandma, my grandpa, they did their best to give us this clean water and clean land, and they stood up for what was right. I say, well, Wadden, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Alan Walker, 7th South 2nd Avenue. I feel like we got a warning shot with the Fish Creek sewage treatment plant overflow. I know there are engineering problems and they're being addressed, and I appreciate that. But nevertheless, it rained hard, and raw sewage went, I believe, into the creek and then into the lake. And it was written about that the lake dissipated it. And I value, I suppose, that dissipation process. But you're talking about 10 to 30 times the possibility of that kind of raw sewage. In the mine's case, sulfuric acid, tailings, and you go through Colorado, you go through Tennessee, you see the mounds of tailings. They move, and they move downhill. In the Legislative Affairs Committee, they spoke that it's not worth the risk. And I ask you to consider that it's not worth the risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Russ Burry. Currently I live at 714 North 5th Ave in Sturgeon Bay. I grew up on the banks of the Menominee River. I fished every day straight for months at a time, barefoot. I drank the water when there was raw sewage in it because I didn't know about it. I was just a kid. But I think an uninformed public is just as dangerous as a criminal that knows what they're doing sometimes. Enforcing policy, that's great and everything. But in order for a law to be, first made, one's got to be broken, right? I grew up next to a political satirist and cartoonist named Earl Harvey. He was nationally syndicated in all the big papers with his comic strip. He had pictures of him shaking the hands with various presidents of his time. I didn't know, why he had such an impact over such people. But these policies that people are throwing around, it is life or death for future generations. And the proposed Back 40 mine constitutes reckless endangerment, environmental genocide, and collusion on a mass scale, in my opinion. And, that's just coming from a CV from the, your own Navy. We do it to other countries all the damn time. Just turn perfectly good land into a wasteland. When we should be building people up, we're tearing them down. And it's not making the masses any better for it. So our infrastructure needs a serious hard look. All these water issues, stop pretending you can buy it in a bottle. Because that oil comes out of someone's backyard to make that plastic. And it's not helping. So do what you can, because you only got so much time, and then you got all kinds of corrupted folks walking around, poisoned with this or that. Better living through chemistry, perhaps, but we derive our culture from our agriculture, and we have things that are building up in our systems that can't be metabolized, like the stuff going on in the Back 40 mine. There's also uranium deposits. Have fun playing with that, kids. Thank you for your consideration, because it is environmental genocide, and we only got so much time to make decisions on stuff like this. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? All right. My name is Regina Sheltree. I drove over from Menominee as well. My family has owned land on the Menominee River for more than 80 years. My grandparents built a cabin, and I love it. It's so beautiful. It's woods as far as the eye can see, trees and beauty. We float down the river. We enjoy ourselves completely. I had no idea this project was moving toward, permitting stages until last year when it was covered in our newspaper, at which point myself and a couple other mothers decided to mobilize ourselves. We created a Facebook group in October, and we now have nearly 5,600 members in our group, and it's called Save the Menominee River, Stop the Back 40 Mine. And every day we meet people that don't even know about this. And so we're doing what we can to raise a big enough oppositional cry in order that people will be able to stand up, because you can't even fight something that you don't know about. And so we're canvassing, we're holding up signs, and we're coming to meet all of you guys. I know you're facing your own water issues right now. I have cousins that live in Sturgeon Bay, and I know that you're dealing with the CAFO situation and trying to protect your water. And so when we think about how blessed we are to live where we do and being the caretakers of 20% of the Earth's fresh water supply, for ourselves now, for our grandchildren, for our grandparents who raised us and gave us this beautiful place to caretake in the first place. And so I just want to ask you if you are, if you've read everything that was sent here, and then you know that it's not a healthy idea. And mining technology hasn't advanced to the stage where we should, let's leave this in the ground, let's encourage the state of Michigan not to move forward with a project that the technology isn't where it needs to be to protect the water, especially considering 50 yards from the bank of the Menominee River would be an 83-acre open mine pit. Sounds horrible to me. And something that keeps coming up is engineering mistakes. Engineering mistakes. Well, nobody plans to pollute. And Polymet didn't expect that their wall was going to break free. The Animas River, it wasn't polluted because they planned to, to pollute 4 states' river water supply, which, if you've seen that, is horrible, and they have no idea how to clean it up, and they don't have the money to do it. So let's just save ourselves all that trouble, and please pass the resolution, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Paula Mohan. I'm a political scientist. I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I drove up for this because this is, you are in the middle of something that's happening internationally. You're in the middle of what's called a sacrifice zone, in which a multinational corporation has moved into your area and is attempting to extract resources and is testing the environment, the regulatory environment, to see exactly how strong, what kind of resistance you can offer to that. You've been told, again, as Bert mentioned, that this is an issue in which the DEQ, the state of Michigan, has primary jurisdiction. This is a boundary water. It's going to affect Wisconsin. And again, there are, I expounded, not in detail, but a little bit about theories of federalism in which all governments have say. And certainly there is backup to that. If it affects your jurisdiction, you certainly do have the right to give input. You certainly have the right to advise the state of Michigan about what considerations they should take into account when they make this kind of decision. Because it is the boundary water, because your economy is based upon water quality, because we all depend on water quality, even down in Madison, we're all downstream. You guys are in the position today to make that decision for all of us in the watershed. This will be good for the DEQ. I hope that you pass the resolution. If you pass this resolution, the DEQ is going to be a little bit more serious in terms of how they interpret the regulations and realize they're getting pressures from all sides. They're getting pressures from investors. They're getting pressures from people that put money into Aquila Resources. And so in some ways, your opinion will be much more untainted and maybe easier to reach, but it will do good for people who want to keep the water clean. We try to find a balance. In policy, we try to find a balance between economic development and environmental quality. And in this case, we're seeing regulatory deregulation moving too far to the point that we're threatening environmental quality. And we're seeing that at the state level, we're seeing it at the national level. So given that there won't be that backup to clean it up, the Superfund funding is being cut at the national level. The EPA is being cut by 30%. It's really important at this state level to at least make your voices strong and make your opinion heard in order to balance out the other forces that are out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for one more before our 30 minutes is up.
My name is Jeffrey J. Budish. I live in Peshtigo, Wisconsin. I'm just here to tell you that the Menominee River right now is rated one of the 10 most endangered rivers in the United States because this river is our river, and we cannot allow a foreign entity to come into our area and devastate our land and our water. We all come from clean water. If the water in our mother's wombs was not clean, we would not be sitting here in this room today. We need to stop this mine from taking place on our river system. Before I die, I was at the Brown County meeting. I had spoke down there, and I said, before I die, I want to change the legislation on boundary water requirements from state to state. How can one state have jurisdiction over all of our water, including all of our Lake Michigan, all of our bay? We cannot allow this to happen to us, especially a foreign entity from Canada. We have nothing to gain, Wisconsin. All we have is loss. And who is going to pay, like we said prior? We spent $41 million of federally granted money to clean up our lower Menominee River. Do the math. 44 miles. And there is no way of cleaning sulfuric acid. Has anybody in this room ever dealt with sulfuric acid? You ever had it on your leg? You ever take a battery and get a little battery acid on your pants leg? What happens to your pants? They fall right apart. Your skin blisters. There is no way of cleaning sulfuric acid off of anything. I had my boat. I'm a guide on the Menominee River, and I guide the Great Lakes. I had a battery actually bounce on my boat and break. My whole inside of my boat was full of sulfuric acid. To this day, that boat, I cannot even get that acid out of my boat or off of my anything. There is no way of neutralizing sulfuric acid. No way. It's there for good. Like they said, in the Egyptians' mines over 2,500 years ago, they used sulfuric acid in cyanide mining. Those mines to this day are still leaking. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment period. I do want to thank everyone for coming and sharing your opinion. I want to thank Mr. Vice Chairman and your tribal members that came down to support you, and appreciate that. We do have one other housekeeping item to go through, and then I will let you know we are going to move that resolution up to the first business item, so you're welcome to obviously stay and see the proceedings. You will not be able to participate, however. Thank you. Is there any supervisor response? Approval of the minutes of the June 27th, 2017 regular meeting.
So moved. Second.
Changes, additions? Kathy?
No, she was looking to see who did it.
Oh, okay. It's a lot of talk. Got it. Okay. Changes, additions, deletions, comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're going to take up Resolution 2017-49, Opposition to Killer Resources Proposed Back 40 Mine Project. I'll start with Susan from Legislative Committee.
I move that we approve Resolution 2017-49.
Second that.
And there's a second.
And I would like to ask Ken, the administrator, if he wants to make any overview comments, and then I have a couple comments of my own.
Sure. Again, this is the background, just in terms of how it came forward. I think I explained it at the last meeting, but this again. The initial, obviously there was a resolution that was passed by Menominee County sometime in October. Usually when the resolutions come through, we review those. At that time, we didn't take any action, but then I guess it was about 2 months ago, we had an individual who actually wanted to have it added on the Legislative Committee, and we had it under communication, and then we added it to our next agenda. And again, the committee actually took almost 2.5 hours of testimony from individuals in regards to the mine, and then the Legislative Committee did decide to actually forward this resolution to you today. So I'll leave it at that. I think a lot of the comments kind of spoke to the, I guess, the tone and, I guess, factual background that was presented at legislative, but I don't know, Kathy, if you wanted to, or Susan, if you wanted to add more, I just apologize. I was looking at Kathy and I said Susan.
I just would like to make a general comment. I've been thinking about this resolution for a month now, and I know these folks have been thinking about it for a lot longer. I've read lots, I've gotten lots of emails, lots of phone calls, conversations in the grocery store. I know you all have as well. And throughout it, even though my default position is probably more environmental, I have tried very hard to keep an open mind on this. We had the testimony, as Ken said, a lot of testimony. We asked the people who came, a room full of people, many from Menominee, as you heard today, to not repeat themselves, to add additional facts, additional information, additional opinions, and they were great. They gave us a lot of really good testimony, and they did not repeat themselves in all of that time, and we learned a lot. Our fearless leader, Mr. Lino, pointed out to me at the beginning of this, and he was absolutely right, that it's important for us to look at all sides of a question. And so when we began this, I tried to reach out to a variety of people to see what other kinds of opinions I could get. And at the time, one of them, somebody said, why don't you talk to the fishing community and see what they think about this? Well, I only know one person who has a fishing company, and it's Charlie Hendrickson, so I called him. And he said to me, I don't know much about this, give me a week and I will do some reading and I will talk to people and I'll get back to you. And he did. After about a week, he sent me an email, and I'm going to read that to you. It's very short. He said, my opinion is this mining proposal is dangerously close to the upper Menominee River. We would like to trust that safety precautions are adequate, but as we have learned many times, accidents can and will happen. They have catastrophic potential in this location. I worked in the Gulf of Mexico in 2008, running a supply ship in the oil fields. With all the safety standards in place there, it was incomprehensible that something like the Deepwater Horizon spill could occur in 2010, but it did. While I am reluctant to appear anti-business, the tribal and environmental objections to this should be respected. Thank you for asking my input. I would be proud to say that Door County objected. And that pretty much summarizes my thoughts on this. I hope my committee will make comments on their impressions.
Anybody else? Roy.
One of the questions that was asked of the members that attended the legislative committee was, what is the state of Michigan doing? Or did any counties in Michigan approve or oppose this mine? And so far, no counties in Michigan have sent a resolution opposing this mine. And if you look on page 25 of your packet, I think Keela addressed why no counties in Michigan are opposing this, because what they say in here is that there's a additional $20 million in total annual tax revenue, more than half which will stay with state and local governments to help fund school and public service. An additional $16.5 million in mineral royalties will be paid during the first 8 years of the project. So local governments in Michigan and the state government are looking at an additional income on this, and that's why they're not opposing this.
Anybody else? Helen.
In reading about sulfide mining and how the mines operate, the processes they go through for extracting small amounts of ore, there's a lot of danger. This mine will be deep. There's water issues, leaking issues, and as one of the gentlemen said, sulfuric acid is not something that is cleanable. It is in the water, kills the fish, kills the plants, etc. When I look at the amount of water and how important water is in the Bay of Green Bay to Door County, the risk to me just seems very, very high. I think that by signing this resolution and passing it forward, we can say to not only our state, our governor, our representatives, but also to the state of Michigan that we oppose this mine. It's a little selfish. We all are sitting here with our electronic devices and our cell phones, and a lot of those depend upon mines like this for actually building them. But when I really look at Door County and its very unique flora, fauna, it's just a very unique area. The Bay of Green Bay is very unique. We have spent a lot of time and money cleaning it up. Lake Michigan is extremely unique. I guess I would like to be very selfish and say that I really believe that the risk to the water in and around our county is just too great. You look across the bay, you can see Michigan on the other side. It's not that hard. I mean, we are divided by lines, but we are not divided by water and the environment. So I really encourage everybody to pass this resolution.
Steve?
I guess I'll just tone in, and Helen took a little bit of my spiel, but I used her spiel in legislative because I guess I see it both ways, but once again, this is one of those cases where the risk is great and the risk is to us, so we have to be kind of selfish about it. But on the flip side, I think, as I mentioned, legislative, we all need to realize that, you know, everything around us, everything I sell, everything I repair every day requires mining and minerals. And, you know, sooner or later, we're going to have to realize that we can't always, it can't always be in somebody else's backyard. If we want to have this stuff, we need the minerals, and we continue to pollute. And somebody, I think, commented about, you know, the pollution and everything we do in other countries, but sooner or later we have to realize that we need this stuff, and we're going to have to start polluting in our own country. Now, one thing I will say is, one lady mentioned about maybe technology's not there yet to protect, and maybe that's a good point to look at, that maybe there is a day when a sulfide mine is safe on the Menominee River, but maybe we're not there yet with technology. And I guess I can agree from all the reading that it looks like they haven't invented any new safe technologies, and maybe the day will come, and hopefully that day will come and people will say that, okay, now we should consider this, that maybe we can try it now, but maybe now is not the time. So.
Linda?
Yes, we all have received emails and calls in opposition, and I want to thank all of you for coming to our board meeting today and expressing those opinions, and I have respect for those opinions. This is what I think I know, that the state of Michigan does have primary jurisdiction over this mining project, that the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality has already issued its mineral mining permit in December of 2016. It's a 22-page document that covers conditions, financial assurance, conformance with EPA, a reclamation plan, and like I said, 22 pages covering just about everything. They've also issued a water discharge permit, an air quality permit has been issued, and the request for the wetlands permit is pending. It's currently under a 120-day public review comment period. This is what I don't know. What is the Wisconsin DNR's position on this? We have heard nothing from the Wisconsin DNR, or at least I haven't. The Menominee County, Michigan Board of Commissioners, so instead of a Board of Supervisors, it's a Board of Commissioners. It was on their agenda for their meeting this evening. It's been removed. It's been removed from their agenda twice, I believe. What is their opinion? it's in their locale, why have they not expressed an opinion? So basically, I believe our Wisconsin DNR is better equipped to address this situation and voice an opinion on the project, keeping in mind the best interests of Door County. Out of mutual respect, I would like to know the Menominee County position on this project. Should they choose to take a position, perhaps they are leaving it up to their state and local agencies and departments, putting faith that they will do what's right for their area. And perhaps we might consider postponing any action on this time until Menominee takes a position. I do have a problem with some of the language in this position. It says opposing the permitting. The permit has already been granted. So does it need to be revised to say something to the effect of supporting Michigan's requirements? I'm not sure. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Grant, what, you have a comment on that?
I'm trying to find it in the resolution, so if you
It's at the bottom of the now therefore.
Urges the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality to deny a mining permit. The mining permit has already been issued.
It's almost irrelevant, I guess it would be the position of this board. What we could change is in opposition to the,
Well, you
Yeah.
could potentially change it to say further permitting.
or in opposition to their granting the permit in the first place, if the county board wishes, if that's the sentiment.
In other words, would be dropping the beginning at the word and in the rest of the sentence.
It would read opposes Aquila Resources Inc. Back 40 Mine Project and the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality's issuance of a mining permit for the project, if we were opposed to it. But yes, the permit has been issued since this draft resolution was initially created.
Okay, so do we need to make an amendment to this or not?
It's up to the board, it would make more sense. And I guess that would depend on what the sentiment of the board is whether it is, if it's opposed to the mine, then logically it would be opposed to the issuance of the permit. So it would just really, to change the paragraph to its intended, would be change it from the present tense to the past tense, just in opposition to the permit that was granted versus opposing them granting the permit in the first instance.
Okay, but could we amend it to say, since 3 of the 4 permits have already been approved, instead of saying deny mining permit for the project, it was altered to say to deny further permitting of the project? Because there's still one more permit.
Yeah, you could do that as well. There's any number of approaches, it depends on the will of the board. But I would assume that if the board's opposed to the mine, we would be opposed to the past issuance of any permits and the future issuance. And it could be changed to say opposition to the mine. To some degrees, fairly straightforward and simple.
Okay. Anybody want, Don?
Yes, I would imagine that there's more than one permit to be issued for the whole project. So couldn't we just...
There's only one left that hasn't been issued.
3 have been.
Right. Orange saying there's 4 permits required, 3 of them have been issued. There's 1 left. And,
So can't we
and
just-
right now, we're in that 120-day
Right.
comment period for that final permit. Right.
So can't we just say any and all permits?
John?
Well, I would certainly agree with Supervisor Waite. I really don't feel that we got both sides of this story. And I think by putting it back a little while wouldn't hurt. I feel we've got all the opposition to it, and I can agree with them, but normally I like to hear both sides of the story And it says, no county or municipality in Michigan has passed a resolution opposing the mine. None up there have. And Nygren, who represents Marinette County, says the mine will bring jobs and boost our economy, all while keeping in accordance with important safety and quality regulations that help safeguard the environment. I don't believe we've heard that side of the story. Why are we in a hurry? I believe we've only got one side, and I would certainly agree with putting it off.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a, Ken?
I will just add this. I agree with Supervisor Waite and Ninus on this. From a personal standpoint, just myself, I'm against it. I don't like it. I agree with the Menominee Tribe of Indians. I'm glad that is in this resolution. They have treaties with the federal government on this, and I believe they are pursuing, am I wrong on that? There's some suits with the federal government on your behalf. I'll support this on that grounds, okay? They're owed this. That's their land. Nowadays, if we stole property from somebody, we'd be in big trouble. We took their land, folks. We took their land. That's the thing where I'll hang my hat on this resolution. All right? Now, but I agree that we haven't heard the other side of the story. So I would rather we wait on this just to see what happens after this 120 days.
Susan?
I'll take a stab at responding to this. I think I did contact different people, and really the only one that came back with some support was the response from Representative Nygren's office. And yet we heard testimony refuting many of the points in that, particularly the Flambeau mine, that's used as an example of that this can work. And that was, I thought, pretty solidly refuted at our meeting by the fact that that's kind of apples and oranges. It's a much smaller mine. And one of the huge things for me is that the tailings, the remnants of the mining activity on the Flambeau mine are trucked off-site to be dealt with. Whereas in this mine, they're all going to stay, and they're going to be dealt with there, and they're going to stay in perpetuity. So, and the fact that there are pollution resulting from the Flambeau mine. I guess I'm not sure what else we're going to find out. We've read information from the marketing department or whoever puts it out for the mine stating their case. I don't know what else there is to hear on this, other than that they believe they have figured out a plan that will work. And I guess if our opinion is going to affect anything and it has a chance of affecting that final permit, then holding on until the permit's been issued kind of defeats that point. I don't know if I can offer that amendment because I made the motion. So can I?
You can amend your motion. Yes.
Well, I would like to amend it to what you said, which is opposition to further permitting, or however you said that.
Is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment?
Oh.
Okay. So we're going to take a voice vote on the amendment. Okay. All in favor of the amendment? Aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Or nay, I'm sorry.
The amendment has carried. So the amendment is now to the original motion. Any other discussion on the original motion with the, as amended? Megan?
I'd like to make the comment that we as this body of government have the responsibility, yes, to folks in other areas as well, but mainly to Door County and to the people of Door County. I don't feel like our responsibility is necessarily to search out the opposition. This is a public meeting. It's a public forum. There's opportunity for public comment. We did not hear any public comment on opposition. I have not seen anything come through, and all of our contact information is public. They know that this is before us from the opposition. Our responsibility is to our people here in Door County and to protect them and to protect their water. So it's my opinion that we should move forward with this resolution.
Helen?
I was basically going to say some of the same things that Megan said, but I am the daughter of an engineer, and there is something about being a child of an engineer. So you are able to look at issues from a rather scientific viewpoint and not just from an environmental viewpoint. I also would like to say that the people in my area who have contacted me were in favor of the resolution, and since I represent just not even my own views, and I have tried to look at both sides of the issue equally, I feel that I need to respect my constituents and vote yes on the resolution.
Anybody else? Okay, I just want to clarify what we have for the amendment. Further? Yes. Okay. So I just want to clarify before we take a vote. So what we did is we changed it, where it's urgent, under the now therefore it be resolved, urges the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality to deny any future mining permits for the project. Last chance, any other comments? Dave?
The last permit is not a mining permit, it's actually a wetland permit.
I think we said further permitting.
Permitting would be,
Further permitting.
and keep in mind that as worded, it only refers to the any permits that the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality would issue, not any local permits, not any other state permits, not any construction permits.
Okay. Any further permitting? Anybody else?
And then you're striking. You're going to stay here to deny any further permitting and striking the remainder.
Yes. Okay. Linda?
I just want to, I'm going to voice a nay vote, not because I enjoy pollution or want to ruin the environment. It's only because I don't think we have all the facts. And again, we have to put our faith in local government departments and agencies, be it Wisconsin or Michigan, that they're going to do what is best for us. So I'm voting no only because I think we need some further consideration and research, and again, out of respect for Michigan as well.
Anybody else? This will be a voice vote. In favor will be aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. The motion to oppose the Aquila Resource proposed Back 40 mine project has passed.
And it's not going to make.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we'll go back to our standard order here. Next resolution is Resolution 2017-44 in memorandum of Stephen Mann. I'm going to ask Megan.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-44 in memoriam of Stephen Mann.
Second.
Would you like to read the resolution?
I would, thank you. To the Door County Board of Supervisors, whereas Stephen Mann passed away on June 28, 2017, and whereas Supervisor Mann was appointed to the Door County Board of Supervisors on December 17, 2002, and served through April 2004, and whereas Supervisor Mann represented Supervisory District 11, including the City of Sturgeon Bay, Wards 9, 10, 18, and 19. And whereas Steve served on several committees, including Board of Health, Information Systems Committee, and Ethics Committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Door County Board of Supervisors, assembled in regular session this 25th day of July 2017, extend our sincere sympathy to the family of Stephen Mann with this acknowledgement of his service and dedication to the citizens of the County of Door.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Linda?
Next resolution, 2017-45, name change Door County Information Systems Department to Door County Technology Services Department. Dave?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2017-45.
Second it?
Basically, it stems from the fact that the department continues to get phone calls looking for information on the county as opposed to information from help with the information technology that's in the business. A rather lively conversation we had on the title, too.
Never mind.
Went round and around and came right back to the same statement.
The administrator survived it.
Yep.
You want to add anything? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution 2017-46, appointment of Door County Technology Services Director. Ken?
Make a motion first?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2017-46, appointment of the Door County Technology Services Director.
I'll second that.
Sure. Let me provide a little background. As you're well aware, we obviously went through a period of transition, and Jason has served, obviously, as our assistant director for multiple years, and he also filled in as our interim director. I guess through that process, we put together a plan for reorganizing the department. And even with that, I think Jason took himself out of that position and tried to look for what the county needs in terms of the future, long-term, and I found that very commendable. I think his level of knowledge and also his expertise in the area is excellent. Just the amount of work that we've gotten done even in the past, I said 6 months, but 4 months since he's been the interim has been impressive. He's done a lot with the staff to rebuild a lot of the morale, and I guess I would strongly recommend that we appoint him as our next technology services director for the department.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Congratulations, Jason. You got a speech?
Jason, why don't you just come up, and I do it with every department head so they get a chance.
Hi.
I told him he had to keep the speech under 20 minutes, so we'll see how he does.
More than 5.
A little note. Paper. He's got notes. Well, I just jotted a few. Hold on, are we going backwards in time here? Because you got paper.
He just wrote it down.
I'm just really glad that they weren't all here to oppose this. Well, I'll tell you right now, when they vacated. But on a serious note, I'd like to say thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a privilege and an honor to serve not only the employees of the county, but the people as well. My plan is to carry myself in a way that reflects that. I'd also like to take the opportunity to put in a good note from my staff. They really have stepped up in the last 4 months, and it is greatly appreciated. I couldn't do this without them, so I guess that's the whole idea behind it all, right? So, again, thank you all for your consideration for this and the wonderful opportunity for myself and my family.
Thank you. Next item, 2017-47, appropriation of non-budgeted funds, Kenai Island Preservation Rehabilitation Restoration Project, Phase 2. It came through finance, so I'll give it to Kathy to start with.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-47.
I'll second.
Appropriation, excuse me. Appropriation of non-budgeted funds, Kenai Island Preservation Rehabilitation Restoration Project Phase 2.
I'll second it. Sorry for jumping the gun.
That's okay.
Taking after me.
Orders.
Provide some background.
Any background?
I can,
I'm going to leave it to our.
sure, I can just do a brief
Administrator.
background. I know Eric and Amy are here as well, if they can answer any questions. Just for some background information, I know they did pass out a chart that shows you the, I guess, history of some of the funding that's been raised for the multiple projects throughout the years. But let me just clarify a couple issues on this one. So again, what's for your consideration has, I guess, nothing to do with the site downtown. Again, this is for Kenai Island, so it has nothing to do with the tower out at the Maritime Museum. So I just want to clarify that for you guys. So this one is actually in regards to the Kenai Island, and what we're looking at, when we originally brought this forward for the initial resolution, the project was approved for $411,000 as part of the resolution. $200,000 was from the county and $211,000 was, again, from the Maritime Museum. And going through that process, I mean, we can provide more details. We got the bids. They were high. We worked with the bids and we were able to bring those down, which we're excited about. So we got the project within budget in terms of that total amount. But one thing that was, I guess, happened during the time frame is we also were aware that we did not get the grant that we were planning on. And mainly with the grant, it was a federal grant, and right now there's so much turmoil, they even haven't allocated any funds to the grant process at all. So it's, I guess, on hold permanently for right now. So really what you're looking at before you today is with the project where they're hoping to still raise the funds, but right now, worst case scenario, they might be short approximately $70,000, worst case scenario. And what they're looking at, we've done it twice before, is we're looking at actually, in essence, advancing the funds for the project so we can proceed. And again, where the funds would come from would be our portion of the proceeds that are divided between the Maritime Museum and ourselves. So in essence, we're prepaying for the project. We don't have the funds in our Kenai Island fund. So in other words, with the $200,000 we're allocating, that fund would be close to zero. Mark has the exact number. So what we're going to do is we'll actually take the funds from our undesignated fund reserve. We'll put the money in there if needed for the project, and then once we get our allocation back from the Maritime Museum of the divided profits, we'd actually take that money and pay ourselves back to the undesignated fund reserve. I don't know if that makes sense or it's clear as mud, but, and again, the way the fund works is we get a certain percentage of the proceeds, and all of those dollars are, again, I think there's a base of like $10,000 that's part of a lease, and then once they pay their operating expenses, anything above that is then divided up based on a formula. And the money that we get goes into the Kenai Island Fund. That fund is specifically set up for use for Kenai Island, both for maintenance and for future improvements. So that's what the fund was established for, and that's what they're looking to, I guess, in essence, use for funding of this project to move forward.
Dan?
Yes, under public comment, I was going to make a comment on this. Don Fricks, I don't know, is Don still there?
Yes.
He was absolutely wrong in some of the statements he made. I mean, and that's why we have public comment there to correct some of the statements he made. Number one, Maritime Museum does not own Kenai Island. Number two, it has nothing to do with the building, the tower, or anything to do in Sturgeon Bay. Absolutely nothing. So I'm just going to correct what he said. He was wrong.
Steve?
We first took this up at the property committee and discussed this, airport and parks. And my biggest thing looking at this is just looking at how the costs, I mean, we had a bid for this job, and we can see how much it came over within, what, two years, you know, 2-year time frame. So every year that we wait on stuff like this, we can just tack on thousands and thousands of dollars. So it makes sense because this isn't going to be taxpayer money. We're borrowing money to this fund. It makes sense for them to do it and get it done now, because if we wait another year or two for them to raise the funds, it's going to cost that much more money to get it done, as well as these buildings are falling apart and they need fixing now. So I just think it would be a good move, money-wise, to do this now and get it done.
Sure. And that's one thing I actually missed, and I appreciate your comments. So, again, it was discussed at multiple committees, but I just want to share it too. So the idea for this project is we're actually repairing the exterior and the roofs of the buildings. So again, I think the main idea of why this one's probably a little bit higher priority for us is that by putting them off, we are facing some escalating costs. So again, there's probably a priority in this case. Once we get this phase done, the exterior of the buildings will be stabilized, and now we can really focus on the future fundraising for the, the interior work that we want to have done. So we can actually say we're not going to do those types of projects until we have the full amount of funding. But in this case, given the timing and what we're heading into winter, we're trying to stabilize those buildings and actually try to, I guess, not escalate future costs for the buildings.
Kathy? The only thing I was going to say is it's when they say we're going to, go out and borrow money for this, we aren't really technically, going to the bank and borrowing money, because, I mean, that's what people think of right away. You're kind of borrowing for the future of this year revenues, and then they will be paying it back.
Thank you. I should have included her on that.
Well, no, that's, I just meant with the comment also, it kind of made it sound like that we were going to loan it to them, and technically, that's not really what it is.
Just internally moving some
Right.
money.
We're advancing future.
They're using it ahead of time.
Ken?
Yeah, actually, we are loaning it to them because the money's not there, but I'm not going to debate that. I just want to know, we've done this before?
Correct. Yeah. 2 times before we've done this.
Okay, and that money does go back into, if it's whatever the amount is, that money we get from them in their payment to us goes into the back into the unassigned fund balance, correct?
In
That's
this
not
case,
going to be
yes.
put into our regular Cana Island and
Nope.
and it's taken out again. This goes back to our taxpayers because it's
Correct.
big that this whole project was set up that no tax levy dollars go into this. So it's paramount that any money that comes out of tax levied amounts that are the basis of the unassigned fund balance goes back in there.
That is true. And
I want to know what assurances do we have, what, because it is a loan, because we're taking that money, what assurances, what contracts, what do we have signed so we know exactly that as that money comes in, it goes into how is it accounted for, that we know that it's going back into the unassigned fund balance?
Again, for us, it's actually put in our accounting system. So I guess our biggest tracker is Mark Janiak, so he's our watchdog. And so I can assure you that he'll make sure that we get it back. But again, the way it's actually done is it shows up within that account, and we'll actually show it that there's a deficit within that account, and then we'll actually be able to show that once it's paid back. We'll track it, and we'll be able to actually see the payments come through, and Mark's done this on 2 other projects to make sure that we're assured that the money's actually allocated properly. Because I agree with you, the whole intent is that the fund...
I'm not against it.
Yeah, the fund needs to cover that.
I'm okay with it. I just want to know the accounting is, that it's handled up to snuff.
Yep.
Super.
Anybody else? Biz?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Dan said, Door County is in possession of Cana Island. And Cana Island is under the Parks Department, and the Parks Department is in partnership with the Maritime Museum to run the tourist industry up there. They do not own it. Door County owns it. But in past history, the income that comes in from Cana Island, the tourist industry, which is the most popular destination in Door County, is Cana Island, that the money will be there. It's only a matter of time. We're going to get the 70,000 bid. They'll pay the county back. So Ken is right, this is a loan, but we'll get the money back eventually because it's just a very, very popular destination for the tourists to come.
Dan?
Yeah, I think, I may be wrong when I'm going to say this, but correct me. Actually, the Maritime Museum is not paying for it. The county is paying for the building in it, isn't it? Because it's a bid with the county. So the money really never leaves the county. It just leaves one account to go to another account. It's not really a loan to the museum by any means. It's just a transfer of money. Public, you know.
Got that?
Don't argue the semantics of it. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Steve, which does bring up a good point, which everybody needs to think about. Those really are Door County's buildings to take care of and preserve or to let fall apart and be gone. So it is really up to us. It's our buildings to maintain, so.
Amy, do you have anything to add to this enlightened discussion?
I would like to say that in the...
Could you come up to the mic, Amy?
Sure, absolutely. Not that I needed.
But they record it, so.
I know, sorry. I want to thank the county. George Pinney and many wise men, once upon a time in 2008, put this account together to save Cana Island, to save the buildings. It had nothing to do with the changes that would happen at the museum or the changes that would happen in the county government. This was protect Cana Island and to make sure we were do our due diligence in getting the restoration done. This is an amazing account. We do everything we can to support it on a regular basis, even internally for the museum. We've raised over $901,000, excuse me, in addition to what the restoration has split with the county to make sure that that restoration happens. It is our mission to make sure that lighthouse survives. It is our mission to make sure that that lighthouse is restored and saved for future generations. It's not about the museum, it's not about the county, it's about that lighthouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Did I see Mark's hand up back there?
I just wanted to clarify the way the funding works. What essentially will happen is that $70,000 will be advanced from the unassigned fund balance into the Cana Island Restoration Fund. That's also where the money that the Maritime Museum raises and contributes toward the project also comes from the Maritime Museum into that restoration fund. The bills then come to the Parks Department. They approve the payment of those bills, and then the county actually pays the bills. So it isn't a loan to the Maritime Museum. It really is loaning or advancing funds from one fund, the unassigned fund balance in the general fund, to the restoration fund, which is also where the money from the Maritime Museum comes. So it does become centralized, but at no point in time do we actually loan the funds to the Maritime Museum.
Thank you.
And I never said we did.
No, I know you didn't. I really just wanted to clarify how the funding comes together before all is said and done.
Anybody else? Since this is Bob's money, we're going to go to the voter board. Oh, we got to wake Jill up here.
They only got not ready yet.
Downtown Bailey Center.
I'll tell my mother to pronounce it.
They don't get any.
Oh, yes.
Accidental, it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
That is passed on a vote of 20 yes, 1 absent. Moving on to Resolution 2017-48, Non-Commercial Hangar Site Lease Agreement. Jerry Schaumburg, building number 52. Dan?
Also make that motion.
Second.
This has been before us many times, and it's a boilerplate thing for the airport, so unless you'd like to have me read it.
All the pages?
Yes, yes, I would like to hear him read all the pages.
Okay.
Whereas.
Okay,
Not.
we'll go to the voter board. It's money. Okay, we'll see. We might not.
Big money.
Okay, we're going to do the voice vote on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 2017-50, capital improvement plan for 2018 through 2022. I know that everybody saw the entire plan and reports in miscellaneous folder, and they probably have it with them. They probably printed it out, or they look at it every evening before they go to sleep, right?
That's how I go to sleep.
I took off a day of work.
Kathy?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2017-50, capital improvements plan 2018 to 2022. Mr. Kent.
Need a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Was there a second?
Susan, when I need you.
I'll second it.
Mark got it. Good.
Okay, again, let me just give some context to the plan itself. Again, the plan is, what you're adopting today is just a plan. It's not a formal authorization to, I guess, allocate funds to any of these projects at this point in time. That's actually done through the formal budget process. Again, the intent of this plan is to actually give us an idea of where we are with future capital projects. I can tell you in the past that I won't say that we've done a poor job at it, but I don't think we've put enough time into our capital planning. So I know we worked hard with finance here and the department heads to make sure that people are thinking about projects 5 years out. And I think what we've seen is an improved document this year in terms of what's going on. I think the area of focus, just for pointing things out, would be, again, if my packet matches, if you go to page 6 and 7 of 128, I guess the main focus will just be on 2018 first. It'll actually show you the projects that were submitted through the various departments. And then you can see the recommended changes. So I'll just walk you through an example. So under airport and parks, for example, we had replaced airport fuel tanks. In that project, they actually had planned to do 75,000 for 18 and then 75,000 for 19. Again, in discussing that project, we were able to, I guess, reduce the overall scope, and we think we can get that done within 1 year. So we actually reduced that out of the levy for 2018. If you then go to page 7, you'll see areas in red that actually shows some of our changes. And really what we're trying to do, if you go to the bottom of page 7, I mean, this was kind of where it kind of comes home. If you look at our CIP, you can see that with the total that we have right now, we have $4.458 million proposed for capital improvements. As compared to 2017, it was 4.1. So again, we have an increase, and again, it's just part of the projects that we're seeing come in. But again, if you look at it, what we need to do is kind of, if you're looking at it long term, we need to smooth that out. We can't afford to do, $6 million one year, $4 million another. We need to try to balance those projects out to make sure that we could sustain ourselves and actually get some of these projects done. So again, if you look through, you'll see that we pushed some of the projects back, or we made some cuts. And then likewise, what you'll see then in the future years, you'll see that we've actually added some of those items back in for backup. So again, just to walk it through as an example, if you look at information systems, you can see that we had the storage and video. That project was estimated at $375,000. You can see in the new page, it's been updated to $275,000 for 2018. But then we still know that we need the technology, but we can actually finish off that project in 2019. So you'll see that actually $100,000 back into the project at that point in time. So again, what we're trying to do is do some pushing and pulling on our capital projects in terms of overall timing. If you go to, I guess what I would consider, I'm trying to find the right page, but 15 of 128 has the total CIP by year for the next 5 years. I'm trying to find the one with the tax levy amount. I apologize.
19?
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Correct. So if you go to page 19, if you look at midway through that table, you can kind of see that, the capital projects, you see the total by all the funding sources. You can see that's kind of going up and down. But if you look at the tax levy amount, you'll see FYI 2018, we're at 4.4. 2019, we're at 4.9. Might have to make an adjustment to see if we can bring that down a little bit, because we have a little bit of capacity then in 2020, and then you can see in 21 we actually drop off a little bit. So the whole idea is trying to take the projects and see if we can kind of stay within that, I guess, workable window for us financially. So again, the reason why it's before you here, traditionally what we do is we usually adopt the CIP before we do the budget. Again, you're not actually formally authorizing these projects to be in the budget. We can still make changes if necessary. But right now what we're saying is that of what we know today with our budget, this is what we foresee going into the budget at this point in time. There still could be some changes. But again, you're adopting this as a planning document for us to use for this year, and obviously our projections for the next, up to 2022.
I have one question on highway.
Sure.
I know that the 3.2 is kind of in the range of where it has been in the past, but it's showing the 5.5. I had somebody call me who looked at this, and they asked why it was 5.5 instead of roughly 3.5 million that's been in the past, and I think it relates directly, but I want it on the record, that it's because of the federal funding.
Correct.
In the same account, and that's what bumped it up by 2.2 million.
Correct. Yeah, that's where you see a big adjustment. We had a federal project that had over $2 million that's allocated towards it.
Any other questions on the CIP?
Again, just in terms of the project itself, obviously there's a lot of work that's done, but I would like to thank both Mark and Steve. Actually, Steve took the lead on the project this year, and he did an excellent job of trying to, we took multiple kicks at this, just trying to balance things out and actually follow up with the department heads to get the documentation for it. So I guess I want to recognize where the work's done as well. So thanks to Steve and Mark for that. Appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we will go to the voter board.
I do it.
That has passed on a vote of 19 yes, 1 no, 1 absent. Resolution 2017-51, maintain funding for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since I heard a little rumbling from the back row here about my voting no to the KIP plan, I'll explain my vote. I've been gone for a week and a half camping. The first time I saw it, I trust it, but the first time I saw it was when I sat down here this morning. It's 128 pages. I'm not going to vote yes for it when I haven't had a chance to look at it. Okay? I'm sure it's fine, but that is why I voted no. Mr. Ostad.
Does that mean you'll bring it up for reconsideration and add it to the yes vote next meeting?
Hey, I don't think you're allowed to abstain.
Sure you are.
No.
You can abstain from anything you want.
Oh, yeah? All right. That all being said, back on track here. I'd like to approve resolution, make a motion to approve resolution 2017-51. Maintain funding for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. The federal government has proposed cutting the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. Door County uses this money. It's annual level of 300 million. And we are asking, therefore be it resolved that the Door County Board of Supervisors does hereby support full funding of 300 million for the GLRI, or Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, in the upcoming federal budget.
Second.
Any other discussion? We'll go to the voter board. That has passed on a vote of 20 yes, 0 no, 1 absent. Resolution 2017-52, maintain funding for the Coastal Management Program. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2017-52 to maintain the funding for the Coastal Management Program, another federal program that is being proposed being cut, and it's a program that we use. Line 16 says, whereas Door County has received over 10 grants worth $390,000, we certainly don't want to lose our ability to grab some funding. So now therefore be it resolved that the Door County Board of Supervisors does hereby support full funding of the Coastal Zone Management Program in the upcoming federal budget.
Second.
I will editorialize and say I do take exception to the first line, whereas the Trump administration, I'm a little sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
Blaming Trump for everything. I mean, for crying out loud, if he found on his own a cure for cancer, the news media would say Trump puts hundreds of thousands of doctors out of business. Let's not make it about Trump or Obama or anybody else. It's the federal government. It's true. Not one man isn't.
Would you like to make an amendment to your?
Well, I would like to make a motion, we take that, the Trump administration, it's the federal government in their budget proposal.
I'll second that.
And had he said that the first time, or felt that he felt that way, I have an issue. I'm not exactly in favor of the Trump administration. However, I have an issue with specifically naming it the Trump administration.
Yes.
It is the federal administration. It is what is the proper title. That's what belongs there. But you didn't say that in the first one.
I waited until I got to the second one because I knew they both said
So,
it.
Ken, what would you like it to say exactly?
Fisher.
Fisher.
No.
Fisher supported administration.
Whereas the federal government has proposed cutting funding for the coastal zone management. That's what it should say.
Yep.
Great.
In their budget proposals.
Okay.
That should go for both of them,
All right, so
actually.
we've made that change. Now we'll.
I'm
vote.
sorry.
We will vote on the amendments first on a voice vote. All in favor of amending it to say federal government?
Or federal administration, whichever.
Federal administration.
Yeah.
You said federal government.
Federal administration.
Okay.
Is this for 51 and 52?
It can only be for 52.
51 is gone.
Can't do anything about 51.
Okay.
Scratching Trump.
Scratching Trump administration, and now it says the federal administration.
Yes.
Okay.
U.S. federal.
So all in favor of that amendment, respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So the next would be the vote on the amended motion. It's a voter board.
Is there money involved?
Inappropriate.
Yeah, 300 million. 390.
You could-
Like it if it was the other way around.
I'm surprised you don't make a motion to bring back on the floor the first one.
I'm going to right now. Just wait.
See, I even highlighted it on mine.
Got a lot of back row static.
I hear that.
David?
I voted. Did not take.
Listen to your elders.
There we go.
Has passed 20 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
And Mr. Chairman, since I voted in the affirmative for 2017-51, I would like to go back to that and
Making a motion for reconsideration.
make a motion to reconsider.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
And I would like line 1 to also be changed to whereas the federal administration, rather than the Trump administration. And I'm not saying for or against Trump, but just, it's not,
Second.
now, play nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'm
let's-
glad you don't go camping more often.
Okay. Okay, first of all,
He revitalized, didn't he?
yes, yes, yes.
Mosquitoes got it.
So Mark,
Well, Trump may propose the budget, the Senate and the Congress still has to vote on it, so that's the only reason why I agree with Ken, it's federal, because it's the whole government.
okay, so just so we got the procedure right, we have to vote on the motion to reconsider. Then there'll have to be an amendment made, then we'll vote on the amendment, then we'll vote on the amended resolution, okay? So right now, all in favor
Reconsideration.
of agreeing to reconsider the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Nay.
No,
Okay.
That's fine.
So now we're going to,
Now I would make a motion to change line 1 to read, whereas the federal administration.
Second.
okay. We have a motion and a second to amend. Any other discussion on the amend? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that amendment has carried.
Thank you for indulging me.
Now, we
Now-
have to reconsider.
Now we need a motion to approve the amended resolution.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second it. Now we get to
Any
do-
discussion on the amended resolution? That was money, right? We have to go to the voter board on that one again?
Yeah. Vote.
Yeah.
Why not?
I was just letting it fly.
Okay, okay, we'll just stay with the voice vote on this one. All in favor? Aye. Resolution, aye. Okay. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Fisher?
No, that will do it at this point in time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
We move down to item
Oh,
11,
no, he's the
ordinances.
next two.
First will be report, amendment to the zoning map of Gibraltar. Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you going to be better than this one?
I'm hoping to be. I'd
No,
like to
don't
make a
change
motion
your
to
Aye,
accept
aye.
the report to the Door County Board of Supervisors for amendment to the zoning map of
you skipped.
Gibraltar.
We need to do 2017-52.
Yeah.
The coastal management.
Wait,
We did
no, we did that.
We did that one.
Back to
Ken, pay attention.
Who went camping?
Wow.
Which
Get
Ken?
him a program.
I'm just impressed we didn't have to ask Grant anything.
Yeah.
Sorry, Grant. All right, sorry.
Pretending he's not here.
Voter board.
You're pretending you're not here, right?
All right, the town of Gibraltar petitions for an amendment to the detailed zoning map of the town of Gibraltar to rezone 2 parcels, approximately 20,000 square feet, from single-family residential to village commercial. It's I'm sure we're all familiar with where the Gibraltar's villages or the town's beaches. They've got the 2 parcels adjacent to that. They bought those parcels, they want to change that to village commercial so they can expand their beach.
Don't be squeaky.
Was there a second on that?
No.
I'll second it.
Susan? Any questions? We'll be accepting the report by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution ordinance 2017-09. Mr. Fisher?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance, zoning ordinance 2017-9, amendment to the zoning map of Gibraltar for the purpose stated earlier.
I'll second it. Sorry.
Any questions, comments? This one will go to the voter board.
Actually, your vote is-
And that has passed on a vote of 20 yes, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you.
Next, report on zoning map of... Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion, we accept the report to the Door County Board of Supervisors, amendment to the zoning map of Sebastopol. Andrew J. and Karen M. Gundrum petition for an amendment to the detailed zoning map of the town of Sebastopol to rezone 20.3 acre, a 20.3 acre parcel from prime agricultural to general agricultural.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? If not, by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ordinance 2017-10, amendment to zoning map of Sebastopol, Gundrum. Mr. Fisher.
All right, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to accept the amendatory zoning ordinance 2017-10, amendment to the zoning map of Sebastopol.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And that's covered in the report. There is some question on this. Would you like to bring your point up, Linda?
If I could, please.
Certainly.
The zoning amendment request came before the Sebastopol Town Board on June 24th to rezone this approximately 20-acre parcel from prime ag to general ag. And it was the recommendation, so obviously town boards can make a recommendation to the RPC. The Sebastopol Town Board did recommend support of that zoning request. However, at the time, Sebastopol had not been provided with the conditional use permit application and its supporting documents. And we are well aware that a zoning amendment and a conditional use permit request are two separate items. Last evening, July 24th, the town board addressed the conditional use permit application. We had lots of opposition present at our meeting, and this resulted in board action to not support the request for conditional use permit for the proposed 11,000 square foot winery. So my question is there any possibility of tabling the zoning amendment request until after the RPC has addressed the conditional use permit?
Grant?
No, because we can't.
Can't have a zoning ordinance,
It would have been nice to hear both, to have heard both at the same time and have all the documents present. The Gundrums have attended our Plan Commission meeting and our town board meetings to explain their position.
5969 5E5 reads that upon receipt of the agency report, the board may, and gives the board three distinct choices: enact the ordinance as drafted, or enact the ordinance with amendments, or it may deny the petition for amendment. So those are the three options. What I have opined in the past is that tabling is not an option available, as this is a statutory.
Tabling is not an option?
Correct. This is a statutory procedure, so the three options available are to enact the ordinance as presented, amend the ordinance and enact it as amended, or deny the amendment.
So
And the reason for that, I believe, in the statute is the timeframes and the necessity of a public hearing and things of that nature.
Can you amend it to put a condition on subject to approval of the conditional use by RPC?
No, that's conditional zoning.
I'm just coming up with the questions. I know we're out there. Okay.
And really, and I know Linda said this and understands that they are two distinct statutory procedures and criteria and elements.
Mark?
Would it, if this isn't granted, then the conditional use permit would not be allowed on that site anyway. So you can't do one without the other first.
Susan?
No, that's what I was going to.
And make clear, yeah, the zoning amendment is absolutely necessary to even have it be eligible for.
Okay, so they couldn't even go to the conditional use if this isn't finished?
Right, we're well aware of that.
Okay. Dave?
No, that was my comment was going to be. It's not unusual for us to have a zoning change and the conditional use maybe in our same meeting, but this way they chose not to go.
Okay.
Now, if we deny it today, they have to go back through the process again, correct? If they want the change.
Yeah, if it's denied, then they would have to petition for another zoning amendment, and I'd have to think about it, but my initial reaction is the petition for conditional use permit is meaningless, null and void, because it anticipates that there's going to be a zoning amendment.
Steve?
I guess my question is, Linda, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
Well, I'm just bringing forth what the board discussed last night. They asked me to bring forth the question, can this matter be tabled and heard at the same time that the conditional use permit is heard? And apparently the answer is no.
Jeff, a minute.
And that's fine. The town board on June 24th did not express any objection to the zoning change request.
Joel?
I was just going to ask a question as far as Sebastopol is concerned. Was there anticipation from the board, or did they know that the conditional use permit request was going to be following the zoning change? I mean, you guys had to know that something was coming down the pipe.
That's correct. The zoning amendment request, I believe, stated a request to rezone from PA to GA for the purposes of establishing a farm market and/or winery. I'm not sure, but that's what the request indicated.
Mariah?
I might be able to shed some light on that. When we know that somebody needs to petition to rezone for something, and then they're going to need a conditional use permit for whatever it is that they want to do on the property, assuming that the rezoning goes through, we do try, whenever possible, to send the town the information all at once, so they know exactly what's being proposed. But in this case, we didn't have significant chunks of the application for the conditional use permit application. So we only forwarded the rezoning petition to the town because the applicants were in a big hurry. So.
Ken?
Could we, thank you, Mariah, for coming up here. Could we, does it hurt them in their current state if we do approve it? I mean, they're still operating, and they can operate as they are with the zoning, the zoning, correct?
Sorry, I didn't know you were asking me a question. Yeah, I mean, right now, they are a vineyard, which is an agricultural use, and it doesn't matter whether they're zoned prime agricultural or general agricultural. I guess it would just be whether you want to lead them down the path of
Okay, thank you.
having a hearing on it.
Would we grant a conditional use permit, we can put stipulations on that, correct?
Conditions.
Conditions.
Yes.
I guess I would ask, Linda, does the town just not want the zoning change, or you didn't approve the conditional use permit request from them, but if it comes to RPC, could we hear the discussion on it, have the hearing, and then work with the town for some conditions that might be acceptable?
I don't know that you can answer that question.
I can only speak as to what action the board has taken. Again, on June 24th, the board did not object to the zoning amendment. We did not object to it.
So
I think that being said, I would urge that we grant the zoning change, the request, and all I can say is that RPC is having a hearing in August, I believe it is.
August 3rd.
On the conditional use permit, and at that time, we will deal with any concerns by the town and affected neighbors, as we always do.
Susan?
I would just add to what Ken said, we might not grant it.
That's right.
I mean, because obviously there's testimony we haven't heard.
That's right.
So it's not a slam dunk that you get it.
Linda?
All great points. like I said, there was no objection to the zoning amendment change. And at our meeting last night, anyone was urged to attend the RPC hearing on August 3rd at 2 p.m. So that the full RPC could hear their concerns. So I intend to follow our board's recommendation and support the zoning amendment. That's what we voted, and that's what I will carry out, so.
All right, anybody else? So we're going to move forward with the original motion. We'll do this on the voter board. Biz.
Linda.
He's coming.
Helen?
It's been a long time for a break.
Oh,
Fine.
We're almost done.
Linda?
Linda?
All right, let me try again.
That has passed, 20 yes, 0 no, and 1 absent. Moving right along, any special reports? New business? Any oral committee reports to be made? Review of committee minutes? Review of vouchers, claims, and bills? Announcements. The next regular county board meeting would be August 22nd, 9 a.m. Reminder, the county board retreat, July 27th, this Thursday at 8 a.m., 8 to 12:30 in Egg Harbor. Also a reminder, the WCA annual conference, September 24th through the 26th, Wisconsin Dells. It's now down to the deadline for registration. If you have said you're going to go and you decided that you're not, please let Jill know before we spend the $175 each to register you. If you haven't, if you told her you weren't going to go but now you are, please also tell her that too, as soon as possible. Okay. Just a minute, Don. The other thing is, our normal county board meeting date would be during our annual conference this year. So when would you like to hold the county board? The easy suggestion would be the week before, which would make it the 19th. Is that okay with everyone?
Of September.
Of September, right. So county board would be the 19th rather than the 26th.
That works for me.
Okay? No objections? Okay, so it'll be September 19th. Don?
Mr. Chairman, you have answered my question.
Trying to stay a step ahead of you, Don, you know? Our meeting per diem code is 725. Mr. Fisher?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further business to be transacted, I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure.